trying to.
He's out.
Oh, going back.
Sorry. About AI music? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Templar, does the panel have a focus, or is it free for all
Oh, shit,
questions?
you
I
guys-
think that's one of the questions.
You guys are prepared, man.
No, this is the you gotta.
Well, when I was 9
What do you
years
gotta do?
old,
There's a if you get on YouTube and you go
Okay,
to
stop.
the analog zone channel, analog like British spelling.
Some fucking idiot. Could you send me that link?
I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
You had to do it for me.
Yeah,
Could you give
I'm
me
good.
the link
I'm
that
there for now.
they're on? So I can see them. It's YouTube, right? Or
Yes. You don't have the application. Wait, this is
Oh,
the thing.
I might. I'm so tired right now, but
No, we talk. We're gonna start talking to each other. We're just getting the chat set up, and then
I've
we'll
got
be
YouTube
good.
Kids.
I feel delayed.
delayed.
Yeah, watching the video.
Oh.
It's a few.
Oh, that's actually us.
It's a little while behind.
You didn't recognize us? What are we talking about here?
Audio
This
good?
is bullshit.
Is this something like one of your products that I don't know about?
No, what someone just said. Complex. Oh.
Oh, favorite sequencing techniques. It isn't a standard.
Oh, it's live.
sequencer.
um,
Joystick. Is that a sequencing technique?
Right?
Touchpad or joystick. It could be if you
Kind of.
sample it. I don't know. I don't consider it.
What is this thing?
It's a gadget. Just like a.
Oh, that's smart.
That's nice. Nice case.
It's nice. My uncle saw I didn't have one at Christmas, and he was like insistent on giving me one. Okay. Like his, and then he got another one.
Right.
I was like, okay.
Yeah.
that's a good thing.
I
when
need
you
to get
got
one of
kids.
those. That's great.
It's nice.
Is there a
And I didn't have a phone case, so now I don't
think
smash
I'm
my phone
running
as
out
much.
my international data.
Yeah,
around here.
case is
I
essential.
just got the.
I used to not believe in them, but I'm a believer now.
In winter
You're about to run out
in
of
Colorado,
data.
Yeah, 'cause I
hands
have
get
to,
super
like,
dry, so
oh,
then
do it, I have
it
to,
falls right off your hands.
No-
yeah.
no
no
grip.
grip. Yep.
Yeah, so you have a grippy one.
Yeah, I got a super
grip.
grip one.
Yeah.
Works great.
Even though when you have T-Mobile in America and you go to Germany, you get free data, but if you have it in Germany and you come to
Wait,
America,
mine just
you have
says
to pay
live
an
and
astronomical
zero.
sum.
Oh, is it
Thanks,
really?
Dave.
In Germany, it's free?
The phone service in Germany is like half as
I'll
much
write
as
this
it is
down.
here. But when you
All
come
right,
here,
cool.
they throw the book at me.
Oops, I quit the app.
Just go a little
Is there-
closer to you. Make
Is there
sure
a,
we're- oh,
I'm
never
on
mind.
Is there a Wi-Fi network that I can use? Because
Yes.
I'm using the like data, my German phone, so I'm like,
There is a Wi-Fi.
yeah.
Look at this Geico
The-
ad.
Yeah, I had that ad
With
too.
the
I was like,
Anaheim
ah.
free Wi-Fi.
It's like you open up YouTube and there's like a bare-chested man. You're like,
Right.
Media
Yeah, and then I
center.
handed my phone to Gabor to help
Yeah,
me get
like,
set
sorry.
up. And,
Capital M. Media.
Yeah.
2018.
I guess it's just based on what I've been searching for, right?
2018. Oh, 2018.
Yeah. I lost it.
sequencing techniques, standard sequencing.
How do I get back to it?
Super cool.
It's connected?
Yeah.
Oh,
That one's mine, yeah. Is it in the way, or is it? Oh, you just thought it was garbage?
Internet is mine.
Oh, okay.
Oh, there. Right,
Wait,
no.
now how do I have to create a channel to
Yeah,
join
that's
it?
us. But how do I talk?
No, you. Do you have an account? You have to be signed in.
I
to
had
your-
it working.
How do I do that?
Oh, live chat.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, wait.
Wait,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
how do you sign in? Did you sign in?
He just.
Yours is just always sign in?
13. There's a really long latency here.
Yeah.
It's at least 15 seconds.
Oh, you don't. You have a YouTube
Okay,
account, or you
cool,
don't?
whatever.
Well, that's
I
all
mean,
right.
yeah,
I mean, we don't have to
I
watch
have
it
a
ourselves.
Google
We're not like
account,
trying to
so
play together through the video.
Yeah.
So
What's Brezzles?
Actually,
I have no idea.
I set it for YouTube account so long ago.
I kind of want to respond.
When he set it up, it just put me in there.
Right, it kind of doesn't matter, right? Like, I only need it so that I can actually post something, but we're just going to be talking, right?
I think so. This confused me last year. I think we read the question and then answer it.
I'm just creating a channel right now, but it already knows that I'm... What did I do?
God.
Look on that hot guy.
search for analog zone.
I
That's
was just there, but I...
There you are. The live. Yeah.
And then do live chat at the bottom.
Cool.
Booyah. Brezzles.
Really great.
Oh, we
picture.
can see and hear you. LOL.
Okay.
We can see you
It's like,
too.
this is what it looks
No,
like when an old man tries to use the internet.
Old dads.
Just kidding. Okay.
Cool. So we all good?
Good.
Okay.
Hey guys.
Hi.
How's it going?
Hey.
So how does it start? You the boss?
No, I'm definitely not the boss.
Oh, okay.
So
Are there questions?
Is
You have
there any
questions?
format?
Okay.
We've been told we can be seen and heard.
Free talk, anyway, but we have already received some questions.
Okay.
Did you see that in the chat?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yep.
Oh, receive questions from people,
Yes, yeah.
not from you. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, so we talk back, not type
So
back.
we can answer the sequencing question.
Oh, okay.
If we,
Well, the
if we wanna
sequencing question
start
is-
at a place. I'd like to ask about everyone's favorite sequencing techniques that isn't a standard sequencer, like mats, tetrapad, joystick. What do you guys use?
Well, that isn't standard.
This isn't standard, yeah.
I guess standard meaning like
Like a
step
linear, like a
sequencer.
linear
Something
step
that's called a
sequencer.
sequencer.
Something's called
Yeah.
a sequencer. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'm not really sure how the things that are mentioned there can be used as sequencers. Really, maybe that's suggesting just using, like controlling the pitch of a stream of nodes using something that's not a sequencer. So, I mean, essentially that's acting like an envelope or
Like
an
a
LFO or
quantizer.
whatever.
Yeah,
or
right.
a controller
Quantizer.
acting as your stream
I-
of pitch data.
I do that a lot actually with this module Mungo, the Mungo Geo. It's a granular oscillator, and the way I sequence it's got a reset input and a 1 volt per octave input. So what I do, so you load like a sample, you load like a bunch of samples in, maybe like a 10-second sample. It's got what, maybe 10, 12 drum sounds. So it's kick, snare, hi-hat, and stuff like that. Instead of just triggering it, what I do is I use, like you were talking about, I use like an envelope to drive the shape, and the amplitudes will kind of play this warpy rhythm
Because
in a
it's
way.
granular.
It's granular,
Yeah.
so you can mess with the start and end times and the pitch and stuff like that. But in conjunction with all that, the 1 volt per octave in, usually I'll use like a sample and hold or something that's in time with the clock, but it creates this very gooey, gummy, strange way of playing these notes. And it's not maybe a conventional way of sequencing drums or some sort of sound, but it doesn't have to be even drums. It could be just musical notes. But I found that to bring some interesting results. If you're like wanting to get out of like just non-linear step sequencing sort of approach, sometimes it's fun to sequence with envelopes, drive beats with envelopes, or multi-shape, wave shape, like the ModCan LFO, which is multiple different wave shapes that can morph and channels and stuff.
Well, perhaps
that's one
an
way.
interesting thing that I can think of is the idea of using a sample and hold as the sequencer, and then grabbing, especially if you're using the source for the sample and hold isn't noise, but it's actually something that's varying around, maybe like in a periodic pattern.
Yeah,
where
have a common clock somewhere.
Yeah, so if not necessarily common, but if the clock that's triggering the sample and hold is at periodic, and the source for the data, the CV coming into the sample and hold is also periodic.
Oh, so you're
unrelated.
under
You'll start to
basically.
get patterns out of
Yeah.
it that are related
to what's in
kind of
there.
divided
Yeah.
down some kind of.
I think you could do that in the Omni mod, right? Where there's a mode where the input mode where you can set the max and min range of, say, like it could be a sample and hold. So it's like top part's getting the top peaks, and then the bottom part's getting, and then it's regurgitating that data out the outputs. But you could have like
And then you can run it into a subsequent channel.
and keep daisy chaining
Keep
the
going
information
deeper.
through, and it
Yeah.
gets mutated along the way.
In that context, I think with an analog shift register, if you have this process already happening, but then you essentially have an echoed version
Echoed
of
of it, yeah.
and different ways of combining together the echoed CVs into combinations can
Yeah.
create interesting.
Yeah, with a polyphonic thing, and you have different timbres with your different delays, and then you kind of get this like echo that changes throughout
Changes.
the.
It's always different.
Yeah, in the
You would have
past it changes.
And if the topic allows us to actually have sequencers in the mix too, I think that it's old news to have two sequencers of different lengths that are playing together. When last year, Martin Subotnick came to my studio, and he told me that he always would use two sequencers that were different lengths, both of them sending CV to the same oscillator, so it was creating essentially like a much longer sequence. But what is quite interesting in that context, like if you had a 5 and a 7 stage, so they're creating this 35 stage loop that is totally not in a 4 at a time world that so much music is.
Yeah.
That's interesting already, but then if you had these other techniques like the sample and holds or the analog shift registers that are grabbing notes out of that sequence and then creating an additional element of multiplying.
Yeah, you get these phase.
Yeah.
So it's not random, but it's like so
It's
complicated.
deterministic.
Complicated that
it
your ears aren't
becomes,
picking up the patterning at all
yeah.
from those.
I think
yeah.
like what I mentioned when I was typing before I realized the mics were on is that it does a similar thing where you just take a divide by 7 o'clock and a divide by 5 o'clock. So now you have your sequence will actually repeat in 35
35
bars or whatever because they go high at different rates. So adding different gates together that are timed is an easy way to make sequences if you don't.
Yeah, we've been using a lot of, we're working on it's a trigger sequencer, but just using triggers to sequence melodies through just deterministic, like shifting and moving predetermined sequences around to put you in a place where you don't use resets.
Yeah.
Or do use resets, and then you get
cool.
different melodies out of like Architect or
Yeah.
Omnimod is a good source
Yeah, the
of that,
Omnimod
too.
is good too, yeah, for that
Ornament
too.
and Crime using the quantizer in that.
Yeah, totally. That's an interesting question then. That's a good
Yeah.
question. Interesting thinking about things differently.
I actually just to not toot my own products, but like but like a very non-traditional use for the spectral multiband resonator is you can use it as a sequencer. It has scales built in, and if you use the 1 volt per octave outputs, you get a 6-channel. You get 6 1 volt per octave outputs. It's an unknown mod because it's not labeled on the or unknown feature. It's not labeled on the faceplate, but you like hold down a button, flip the switch over to fast.
You guys in your menus.
Yeah, I know.
Hidden features.
But it's whatever. It answers the question. It's a non-traditional sequencer. So yeah. Cool. Anyways, are there other
I know,
questions?
I always feel weird, like, my products,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. But
Yeah.
Well, people don't
Guys,
know
have you
about
seen
it.
my
we
products?
gotta
Yeah.
talk about it.
Well,
I use the Richard Devine oscillator,
Yeah.
dude.
from what's here, the question directed at me, I can answer that really quickly. It's not official, but we're hoping for around 500.
Cool.
Okay.
Dollars or
Richard
euros?
Devine. Well,
Oh, yeah, it's
the
here in
interesting
Berlin.
thing about that is that since euros these days are about 19% more valuable than dollars, and since in Germany the price is always listed with the sales tax of 19% included, and the American prices are listed without the sales tax, it tends to be like around the same.
That's
Like
nice.
dollars and euros. But
So you just say $500.
yeah.
People know what you mean.
Yeah. Well, I like to do that anyway, because it's just it feels really strange to me to say a price and say euros. Maybe it just sounds like a weird name for a currency to me. And Germans say euros.
You gotta start saying it that way.
And Spanish people say euros. So it's like a word that it's used throughout a whole continent, and no one can agree on how it's pronounced.
Right.
Just a little minor trivia fact, the Bolivian currency is the only currency where the name for the currency is the same as the name for the people. Bolivianos.
Bolivianos,
Is the
wow.
person and the...
And the
say like
currencies.
6 Bolivianos is also 6 people or 6
The currency in Serbia is dinar. So like you say like this dinner cost like 25 dinars.
It was like a 25 dinner. Yeah. Nice. Okay, any more questions? Oh, Richard Devine.
Is that what they said? Richard? Oh, damn nice. Would love a Orange Box Richard Devine interview on techniques.
I think that's still related to the thing we were talking about before. It's just that our discussion is so delayed compared to the
oh my God.
Dan
chatting.
counted it's like 15, 20 seconds, something like that.
Oh yeah, we have a long latency here, so
Oh, we
we
do?
see your questions like 20 seconds later.
Yeah.
You'll see that in the future. It's okay.
One for
Oh,
Dan.
at Dan Green, are you planning to release your 20 HP dual modules as 10 HP channel ones? One channel looping data would be awesome. Oh, we've thought about it. I think dual is awesome and forces you to take a creative approach where you're using things of different times. It doesn't force you, but it highly encourages you to use different timing tempo things, which I think makes music better. So, but that said, we have been thinking about making a 10 HP one channel PEG with an integrated VCA. So it's not. I'm not announcing some product right here, but
This is turning into a
But we-
Forum
we have
sales
a-
pitch.
someone asked me.
Right.
Sava Botic asked. I can't ignore.
The people have spoken.
But yes. Oh, one channel looping delay. Yeah, that could be cool. It's possible. We hadn't planned that. So that's my answer.
Matthew says, thoughts on arranging various parts of a larger performance and the transitions from part to part. I'll start this one. Richard and I have talked about it before, about like what it takes to do a live performance, actually using modular stuff and not sort of phoning it in or faking it. There are a lot of different ways to do it. My technique generally is to just make it up on the spot. Another technique, Richard tends to do more preparation. I think that obviously the result that you get from those two different techniques is very different. My philosophy on all of that, or preparing, I feel like the preparation for the performance is my whole life up until that moment, which is that learning how to use the things so intimately that when I want to do something with it, I know exactly how to go to it and do that. I mean, that's obviously a bit easier when they're my designs versus like if I were working with somebody else's designs, where some of the quirks of it are
Yeah,
more
but you learn those
mysterious to
quirks.
me.
You learn those quirks as you use them.
Sure, and of course I'm a user first, and a designer second.
Right.
But as far as like transitions, I mean, of course there are cheap tricks, like sweep some noise or.
I've used them all.
Yeah, but also I think in the context of like trying to make a continuous stream of music, like in a club atmosphere where essentially you're playing, it would have been a DJ if it wasn't you playing, this live performance. So you're expected to make a continuous stream of music, kind of in the way that a DJ would be, sort of blended from one section to the next.
Not to be touting our own products too much, but that's been like
We're all doing it.
Of course, we have to. We've been really focusing on trying to make that easier for people. Like we made a DJ filter in Euro.
Sure.
So, and that it's a cheap trick, like you said, but it's also can really help you do a transition, change something in your sequencer, bring it back up.
Yeah, well perhaps
sorts
a
of tricks.
less cheap trick is the idea of preparing the next thing that's going to happen that you're not hearing
That's
yet.
what I
sort
do.
of like queued up the way that you would queue up a record, queue up the next thing.
Actually,
That's
use
how I
a
do
delay, loop, like looping, delay with like feedback or loop it or something.
Yeah.
Like you capture something and then it's like spinning while you're like quick setting this thing up,
Yeah.
checking, and then you're like
Yeah.
flip over,
And
Yeah, cue mixing, check something in your headphones.
Yeah, but you
in
have to-
your modular.
Totally.
You have to kind of know at least one step ahead, like what you're gonna go to. It's not really, for me at least, I can't just like be like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna noodle around until I think of something. Like the pressure's on, so yeah.
But also there's a built-in challenge if you travel somewhere to do a performance. You can only bring so much equipment.
Yeah,
And it feels to me like the airlines keep getting more strict on us, like keep making it harder
I've
for
had
us to
some
But the
fun times,
modules get more dense, so
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
but
hoping to be able
also-
to travel with just a 6U case
Yeah.
in the future than with a 12U where I have to
Yeah,
do it.
but
It's getting better.
I think that also built into that, as much as that could be thought of as a disadvantage to not have, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I know that we definitely have a lot of gear in our studios.
Right.
So it's not that we, you know, unilaterally believe in like limitations in general, but I feel like when like, you know, it comes down to it being limited, like this is the palette that I can work with. Now how can I apply myself to be creative to make this like limited setup do more? How can I really exploit this? I think that challenge really inspires some
Absolutely.
creative decision making.
It's true.
That's a nice thing about just setting up a small rack and then having 3 modules and just challenging yourself to make everything you can with
everything
that.
you can. I do that a lot. I do that all the time, where I'll pull out like a little, 3-use skiff of stuff when I've gotten a lot of modules, and then I'm like, all right, I'm gonna just not pay attention to all my other crazy
Just
stuff going
these,
on. Just put it on the kitchen table. Actually, a lot of times I'll just leave my studio, so I don't even have the distractions of everything else. I just put a pair of headphones on and just try to understand what maybe these 2 or 3 modules do. Maybe have one control source, maybe something to sequence with, just to do simple things and to understand just the basic foundation of what it does. Get a grasp on, hey, what is this thing all about? But no, it's good. It's funny you were talking about transitions. I get asked that question all the time about live show transitions, and I take the old school DJ headphone approach where I have my setup, or my system set up to where I'm roughly trying to play 8 to 10 songs per show. So I move from left to right. So I have my sequencers like my mod can, and then I've got the circadian and some other things that I link to, mostly on the left-hand side. That's like the heart, and then everything sound-wise goes from left to right. So I kind of have like my oscillators and stuff, and filters and envelopes and effects and stuff like that. But each section will play a certain part at a specific time. Like I might use a Mysteron for just one song, and it's part of like that one element is going to be this harpless, stringy type weird song.
Right.
So I think of it more in like elements that only happen at certain times and kind of throughout the duration of like a live set, so that you're not hearing. A lot of times, like I've heard modular pieces where they just use the same sounds for 40 minutes, 30 minutes, and like
And just keep pushing stuff
Yeah.
up.
they'll
and
keep
you
pushing, which is
it gets
great.
denser and denser.
It's denser,
Yeah.
which is cool too. I've done that many times,
Yeah.
and lately I've been trying to challenge myself more. Where I'm like, okay, now I'll do 4 or 5 minutes of this piece. Now I want to do a completely different set of sounds and transition into a completely different song with different arrangements, different timbres, and different tunings and percussion. And it's a real challenge. I mean, it's been a real challenge for me, but that's kind of how I've been doing it. It's like each section will play its part at a specific time along the timeline during the piece, and I have sheets of paper that kind of
Yeah.
yeah, I call
No, you have
it's
like
funny
a form. Yeah, there's a structure there.
because
So,
I have to have an outline, otherwise I'll
Exactly.
jam forever. So what I do is I have people that see me play. I have a timer. I run the iPhone timer, and they tell me, "Well, Rich, you got 45 minutes." And I'm like, "Okay." Mentally, start the timer. Then I start doing things with my hands, and then I actually can, in my head,
Is it counting up or counting down?
counting down.
Ah.
Yeah, counting down. So I know that I have to make certain things happen in a few minutes, and then start transitioning to the next point once I hit 10 minutes and 15 minutes, and then you just kind of have this mental note, I guess, So it's kind of like an outline, but you're still kind of jamming. You're still doing it live. It's just I'm trying to cram in more stuff in a shorter amount of time and make it more.
Well, it's definitely easy to get distracted from
Oh,
moving forward
the
and
plan.
like just start tweaking away.
And that's my
lose
problem.
track
I
of
get
how
lost
long
in my
you've been
own
doing
stuff,
this,
and then an hour's gone by, and the audience is like, "All right, Rich, you're killing us."
But I think that the key challenge to working live with modulars is that so much in the studio to get the really recordable or really like keeper stuff, we experiment for a really long time with different tweaks on it. But if you're in front of an audience, you basically have to get there and not play a bunch of
you can't find
garbage
it.
like on the way.
You gotta get right to the good stuff.
keeper.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you don't have much opportunity to really try out. So you have to go back to what I always say is you go back to the original patch memory. It's like how to get certain things that you've done before that worked really well for you.
Yeah.
You can go to them. you can't try out some new idea that's going to involve like
Yeah.
phase cancellation and like
Right.
balancing
Yeah, right.
levels.
Let me-
So you-
Phase
start over.
cancellation,
Digging
yeah.
in your nets cables. And,
Let's retune everything.
Yeah.
We're having a theme, like kind of a theme of questions here about
Oh,
our
wow.
favorite modules that are not our brand.
I'll start.
Mark Verbos' current favorite non-Verbos modules.
Right
Okay,
now,
yeah.
with that, molecular voltage block has opened
yeah.
up our whole system just insanely.
Oh yeah, Ben
yeah,
Davis.
it's great. Ben
voltage block
Davis,
is
yeah,
great.
it's been killer.
Excellent module.
So it's helped us just think about how we make music completely differently.
brings things to
And
life.
Bringing
Yeah.
up transitions. That's a really easy way to do transitions.
That's a great
You
module.
load another set of
You can
saves
store them
and then,
too. Yeah, It's
exactly.
a great module. Yeah, excellent.
It's a good one.
Very hands-on.
Yeah. I'd say mine is, for a long time, for many years, it's been the ThynthWorks FSR4. And it's rare, I guess, but it's like the best controller I've ever used because of the pressures are like super sensitive, super controllable. You have 4 channels, you can push, press, you have gate outputs, so you can use triggers, you have like, you can sample and hold, I mean with a
Cool.
sample and hold module, but to get different notes and things, and then, yeah, it's, as a hands-on controller, which is like lacking in my systems a lot.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Did you
It's
do
like-
the Scott Yeager trick of double stick taping a mouse pad onto it?
No,
'Cause you just get a better gradient.
Yeah, and then you can hit it with a drumstick or something.
Yeah,
yeah.
that too.
Yeah, I haven't done that.
So-
My
so
coworker
sad.
Ralph said that.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, yeah.
And the new things that I saw, I was really surprised by, well, not surprised, but impressed by Dave Rossum's like 8-channel sampler in a
Yeah,
Eurorack
simulator,
module.
it's great.
I mean, we shouldn't be surprised that he comes up with
Yeah, that
these kinds of
thing's
things because
awesome.
he's like, such an innovator.
Yeah.
In the stuff that I have in at home, the Just Friends from Mannequins.
Oh, yeah,
is,
yeah.
Oh, I
like,
love the Mannequin
mind-blowing
stuff, yeah.
thing. And,
They make great
I,
stuff.
I hated his packaging where there's like a scroll of philosophy instead of any kind of like guidance on what was actually happening in the module. But
They're interesting guys.
but
yeah.
particularly together with some of my designs that are really CV hungry, like have a lot of CV inputs. The fact that the Just Friends sort of strums out 6 envelopes.
It's great.
Really,
It's good for
smartly.
rhythms, too.
It's really great for
You can do rhythm
like
stuff with it,
harmonic
too.
oscillator
I've
to
done
put all 6 of those into different harmonics and then control how they I think that that's really cool.
It's a great module.
I was turned on to it because Leosh from Bastel HRTL, I saw him doing some things with it that like really blew my mind. So I had to have that. Yeah.
Yeah, Rob Likens. You know Rob?
Who?
Rob Likens, artist Rob. He works
Yeah.
at Control. And
Oh, yeah.
Rob, in New York,
yeah, Rob Lowe.
Rob
Yeah,
showed
yeah.
me a cool trick with the Just Friends where you run the pulses really sharp on the Just Friends, and then you could do these alternating like sequencing drum patterns. It's his main drum sequencer in his live set. I'd never seen anyone use it like that. And I remember last time I was at Control, he's like, "Hey Rich, let me show you this." And I was like, "Oh, I never thought to use it. Never used it."
Well,
It
that's
uses a drum sequencer because it's always like, depending on where you're shifting the curves, it's like it's waving around different patterns,
Yeah,
but
it
in a
does some
really
really
organic
interesting-
way. Yeah, it's really cool.
It's
The rhythms it
also
generates
with its
is
like
so cool.
resets, like if you overlap,
If
it
you
hasn't
overlap, yep.
finished and you triggered it again,
Yeah.
it does some really
It's
strange
really
things.
cool rhythms. Great for people out there. You should try using it as a rhythm, a sequencing drum sequencer. It's really cool. Yeah. Thank Rob on
Someone
that
hit
one.
the idiot playing Hotel California in the background.
Yeah, right.
Well, okay, yeah, we got to take care of it.
Richard, if you could leave NAMM with only one yet to be released module, which one?
Yet to be released? Is it not out yet, or is that?
Yeah, something that's been announced here but hasn't been
Oh.
shipped.
So it's got to
yet.
fit in your pocket so you can run with it. So, no, I don't know.
That's tough. I've actually been given that already. But let's see. I don't know. Maybe the Rossum sampler. I'm really excited about that too. That might be the one that been waiting for, like a multi-timbral sampler with like lots of channels, lots of flexibility, and the pitch shifting. Did you hear that? Did you listen to the pitch shifting algorithm?
I just saw it. I haven't tried it out yet.
The pitch shifting in there it's kind of ridiculous. Yeah, there's zero aliasing, and Marco played me an example of a sine wave, like he was just pitching it down. I can't remember, it was like 24 semitones and then going all the way up, just of a sine wave. And I thought it was just an oscillator, turning it off. So I was like, wait a minute, is that like an analog oscillator you're running and change the pitch? He's like, no, that's the sample that I'm pitching down. It was just so smooth. And he said that Dave had worked it was like 2 years to get the pitch shifting that smooth. And then there's no aliasing. I mean, I was just like, it was remarkable.
That's super cool.
Nice.
I mean, I've used a lot of samplers in my time, and I was not expecting it to be that awesome. It's pretty awesome. It would be that one for me. Yeah.
I'll cover this why did you move to Germany thing and get it out of the way.
Why did you move to Germany? I love it.
Well, no, I don't know why it's a controversial topic. That's
Here we go.
It's not a controversial topic. I actually used to live in Germany. I lived in Berlin from 2000 to 2003. I loved the place. I'm a techno artist, so when I went there for the first time in the 90s, it was totally mind-blowing to me and inspiring. So I knew from the first day that I was there that I wanted to live there. So I lived there for 3 years back then, and then I moved to New York to do something different, to get back into doing music production with bands and other people and whatever, and not just do my own music alone. And I accidentally stayed in New York for 14 years. And when we started doing the Verbos Electronics about 4 years ago, we immediately got into a distribution deal with Alex 4, which is Andreas Schneider's distribution company, and the family of people from Schneider's Laden and Alex 4, and now the Super Booth organization became our family for this industry. And my wife Sonia hadn't lived in Germany before, and I was just thinking the whole time, yeah, but it used to be so cool. You don't understand. It's not anymore. But to her, it was new, and she really loved it. And so we just talked a little bit and came to the idea of wouldn't it be interesting to see if we could be the first synthesizer company to move to a different country. And Berlin feels like the epicenter of synthesizers in the world, at least modular synthesizers in the world now. So it feels like a good place to be. So,
That's a good
I don't know
answer.
what the controversy is, but yeah.
I don't think there's any controversy.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good
I
answer.
mean, it's just in the question. That's all I say.
Yeah.
Yeah. To all module makers on the panel, can you make us a 6 to 8 operator FM synth module? No.
There's a 4 operator coming from Humble. He's a new guy.
Oh, wait, we're making one.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Yes.
6 to 8.
6.
6?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Very nice.
And I think Bruce Duncan was working on one too. Modcan, he was working on an FM, and it's on hiatus right now. But I was looking forward to that one as well. But
Cool.
I don't know if it's still coming out. I was really excited about it, and then things slowed down.
Somebody loves you on Facebook.
Are you?
I don't know.
Are we
What's
going?
up?
I mean, now we're so far past.
It's like talk amongst yourselves moment, I think.
Yeah.
Which Eurorack manufacturer that's not your own brand do you like the most and why?
That we answer that one.
Yeah, kind of. Richard, your almost daily Instagram jams made for some kind of projects, or are they just for fun?
Are they just for fun? No, most of them are tracks. To answer, who was that?
So wait, you make
Salva.
a video while you're in the middle of making a recording?
No, it's usually at the end of the day when I'm done a lot of sound design work, I'll spend 3 or 4 hours on a patch. I'll make a patch every night. That's been my goal over the past year and a half, is be more productive in music, not just tinker around, but actually make a patch from scratch and I don't know what direction it'll be in. It's just kind of like, I don't know, whatever kind of happens for that night, I'll record it, and then store it away. And that's how I did my album. I kind of like recorded all these songs every night, and my idea was just like record one song every night for a full year, and just see what happens, you know. And before you knew it, I had like 150 tracks, and like what I did is I would record like 1 minute of the video on Instagram. I do it on most nights after I've done work and stuff, just to see what my fans are liking, and if it's stuff that got a really good reception, I would put those in a folder, and then I would work on them more, and then I would re-upload like even more finished versions of those pieces and then those became the actual tracks that are on my new album that's coming out this year.
Do you record them with stems or stereo?
Stems,
or?
yeah.
Okay.
16. I was using 2 Apollo, UA Apollo.
Yeah.
So it's like 16 channels on input, and then I was just running these snake cables and like taking a kicker and stuff, and then running it into these analog summing mixers with all this other outboard stuff. I mean, it wasn't anything tricky. It was just trying to get a good signal, and then but if it's something cool, then I have it all set up so it's just really easy to just hit record and then, you know, capture stuff if it's cool. Sometimes it comes out cool, sometimes it's garbage, but I always post it up just so people can see what I'm doing at the end of the day, or, you know, and it's just for my own, I don't know, it's kind of like an interesting way to catalog too, things that you've experiment with different pieces of equipment and different combinations. You remember like, oh, that combination was really cool, or it's almost like a daily diary of experiments and songs that you can create. So it kind of, for me, has been really therapeutic. Like I love because I work on a computer all day. I'm sure you guys work on a computer a lot too. So at the end of the day, I'm just like, I was like, I can't look at a monitor. I'm going to look at knobs and blinking lights and just
touch real things.
Touch real things, not be working on my mouse all day. So it's
our Instagram's been just therapeutic. Put out
and that's cool.
Like work on ideas for module design, and then like, okay, we're done talking. Let's put something out, get something cool, and just
make some.
It's totally like a diary of like
diary of where you guys are at.
Doing for the new,
it's a great way for fans to follow what you're doing and the evolution of things and experiments. And
it's fun to not tell them anything, make them guess a little bit.
Yeah, totally. I do that all the time. So they don't know what it is, you know? Like, this is fun.
Little mystery cloud.
Richard, what's the unreleased module you've already been gifted?
Strymon Magneto.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they gave it to me yesterday. Yeah.
Nice.
On the, I don't want to send my modules to Europe to get fixed for me. You don't have to worry. Some of the people who worked for us while we were still in New York now have a shop called Patchwork that is based in Brooklyn, and because they worked for us, they have intimate knowledge of the products, and they'll do repairs on our stuff. They're like warranty repairs, but from New York.
Do they do other manufacturers too?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Interesting. I didn't know about this.
There's been a little bit of discussion between the guys from our office, the Alex 4 office in Germany, between us or them and the guys who are in New York about doing warranty repairs for some of the other European brands.
That's really cool.
And
it'd be nice to go vice versa too.
Yeah, but I don't want to be the guy who does the repairs in Germany.
On my stuff, yeah.
Well, there are some good people who are part of that organization who can handle. I don't know if that's something that you guys would be interested in linking up. I can put you in contact with people in Berlin who could do warranty repairs over there, and then not have to have Germans sending stuff. Usually
nice.
the border problems, import stuff is really hard going into Europe, but not so hard going into the United States.
Yeah.
We have a lot of headaches if we have to bring something in for a repair that Germany wants to tax us as if we're buying it.
Yeah.
And the paperwork is
I've
so
got a meeting at
complicated
2
for us
o'clock.
to do.
All the way down there.
Like a thing where
I'll have to
we temporarily pay the tax, and then when we send it out, we get it back or something.
I think
It's
most
so
of the
much trouble
questions
that it's
are for
not
them
worth it. It's better to just pay the tax and move on.
Right. Okay.
So it is a good idea to have like a regional repair specialist, and now with like video
from
chat,
Schneider's handles
I do
most of our stuff.
Peter from Patchwork, like he and I do a video chat like every week, and whatever he has that he you know has done. He shows me like, this is what I did. I took care of it. Or if he has a question, you know, I go through it with him, and that's a pretty effective strategy.
Yeah.
Is it more difficult to come up with new ideas?
It's more difficult not to step on other people's toes, I think, now, because there's so many other people in.
Well, I think
Yeah,
that's an
so-
interesting question in the sense that some people might say that there aren't any new ideas, but I mean, in a way,
Some
no,
people
I-
might say that.
Yeah, I think that there are. No, I mean in modulars, because I would always say to like my friends who weren't really so electrically inclined, I mean, who were users but had no idea what was going on behind the scenes, that to some degree designing a module isn't that far away from patching something, because a lot of the time it's building blocks that are just configured in a way that's sort of streamlined to allow a certain thing to happen. So,
All right.
oh, okay.
Cool.
Sure.
Nice talking to you.
Real quick,
With you.
when you get a module, is it you typically keep it or send it back to them?
Typically, when I send back modules to manufacturers, they get sad. They're like, "What?
You didn't like it? Yeah.
That's what. I mean, I always keep the modules because they're like plugins to me. They're like different camera lenses. They're like different. I look at them like. It's not how I look at them, but different brushes and different tools. So I like products in all to where if I reconfigure my system, it's supposed to stay with me. I have like two.
Oh, they can't hear anything you're saying.
260. Well, I gotta go. But anyways, answer your question quite simply was no. They always stay with me. Yeah, I never. I always make music with this stuff, and that's the most important part for me is making music with this stuff.
Is there a point at which your studio will be so crowded with gear that it'll be like a popcorn popper where the top just like comes off?
It's already
the
done
roof
that.
just breaks off the house.
It's already that. It's to that point right now. Yeah, it's gotten pretty crazy. But yeah, I mean, for me, the most important thing is making inspiring music. So yeah, I'm not in it just to get a tool and be like, cool, man, thanks. Here, give back. I don't want to get it out of my face. Like, no, I want to use it and make music and inspire people. The number one thing I want to do is inspire people. So that's my goal, is to make hopefully inspiring music and do inspiring things with this stuff. And short answer to that. So.
Yep.
Back to the module design thing. I think that there are obviously very, very different ways of approaching module design, but in my mind, the most basic fork in the road is that some designers prefer to make very uncommitted building blocks type modules, like
Of general.
similar
generalist.
like to the old Surge stuff, where like in order to create anything out of it, you have to use a lot of patching to make something out of like very
Like small
simple
multi-function
things.
blocks.
Simple but powerful.
versus the much more macro way
Right.
of a module, which is something that's configured in a way that it quickly gets to a certain thing, and where that might grow out of control is, without mentioning any names, the ones that basically present presets that don't motivate users to like come up with creative uses, because what comes right out of the box is so like polished and finished that it doesn't invite experimentation. Of course, in my opinion, that's not in the spirit of modular. If
We
you
talk
get-
about that a lot.
Yeah, if you
Yeah.
get something where you have a few choices of totally finished things coming out of it, then it's not inviting you to reach out and touch it and find your way with
Exactly.
it.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we've done a couple sample-based modules now. They're on like a little STM 405 platform codec, like totally, like it's not open source hardware, but it's hardware that many people have basically used the same thing of. And doing sample-based modules, everybody asks, can I load my own stuff in? But the design philosophy has been for us, well, we built this really totally customized engine that does this pretty specific thing and tries to make a building block for making this certain type of sound. And then people just say, oh, isn't it just a sample player all the time?
Yeah.
And it's it's not a sample player. It's it's still a synthesizer, but it's more the macro type of large design. And
yeah, I think
we're trying to still do something new. So
and it's really a lot of that's about UI, really, like 'cause you want the power, like so we're dealing with a thing we have on show here, like first module with presets, which is really like saved settings that you can save, and we haven't decided like what we're going to load in there as presets, like factory presets, but the ability to recall all your states, that's super powerful. But if it was loaded with like 3,000 like awesome patches, then users might not really be encouraged to try and make their own, and then like pretty soon you get everyone says like, oh, all the this just sounds like this and this. It's like because those are what the presets sound like.
Well, we all know ones that are like that, but I think.
But the difference, I guess what I'm saying is like the difference is the UI, really like how it's
absolutely
what's up front.
In my opinion, the interface is everything, because if you make an interface that invites someone to make music with it, or to use it, and it draws the creativity out, and it really almost doesn't matter what the technology is that's behind. I mean, that should be transparent. It shouldn't be something that the user has to concern himself with, what platform your sample player is based on. They should feel like the thing gives them ideas about what they could do. Well, whoa, that's they could do this or do that. I can experiment with it. The problem to me is that in the earlier days of when I first was starting out with music production, like 1990 or something, at that time the totally normal way to make music was to separate the songwriting portion, like making the sequence or the keyboard part, from the sound portion of it. So you create the part, play it like it's a piano, and then click through some huge number of presets. Well, how does this sound with a piano? How does this sound with a guitar? How does it sound with whatever? And that is not the world. The modular user doesn't exist in this paradigm where it's like separating those two things, because when you make music with a modular, the sequencing and the sound design are all intertwined,
connected, and
you couldn't take your riff and apply it to some totally unrelated sound. It just doesn't work that way, and that is the motivation for an entirely different type of music making, because of the way that you work with this instrument. It dictates what your direction is going to be, or your
like you said earlier, it's a limiting factor. So you can put as many cables in as you want, but you're still limited in terms of what you can do with just what hardware you have, and that lets you push and try and figure things out that in ways that the hardware either wasn't designed to do or was, and you can go really deep that way by having limiting factors. Instead of just a computer full of samples, it's a lot more immediate and forces you to make something than just look at sounds forever.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to answer the question, is it difficult to come up with new ideas? No, it's difficult to make all the ideas that I have as we're making them, because it takes a long time to bring something to fruition. I'm having new ideas faster than we're making them, and then like new technologies and new musical ideas are coming my way, and then I'm like, oh, I have this other stuff. So then things are constantly evolving, and it's not hard to come up with ideas.
But surely at some point you had an idea that germinated for a while.
Oh yeah.
You made the prototype or the example of it, and then you realized that actually it wasn't cool at all. And
bad
shelve
idea.
it.
Sure. Which is actually a relieving feeling to be like, okay, now I can move on to the next one, which I know is really good, or So.
And I think that there's something asking me like what's coming in the future, and this is a great time to segue into that.
Is there any other modules planned in the near future?
One time on a phone call with Don Buchla, he gave me advice. The only bit of advice that he gave me was, don't ever tell anyone what you're working on. And the reason for that is he said if you decide that you're not going to do it, you're going to have to answer questions about it for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So I think that, you know, couldn't be more right. I think that, you know, like you said, you have so many things that are, you know, in various stages of design. I mean, I have ideas that I carried around in my head for like 7 years, thinking about like, I think I could do this using this technique, and it might be really cool. But to me, the most important thing is always the way that the idea interfaces with a user. Like, can it be
Yeah, can you
like
play
a
it?
musical? Yeah, can you play it? Is it a musical, a music making device? Is it going to inspire anything, or is this just showing off that there's some like electronics technique?
Yeah,
that
or
you
some
can get
like
away with?
algorithm that's like, well, that's really interesting when you simulate this physical, you know, physics formula using CV. That's interesting, but does it really make good music? And sometimes you don't know until you make it.
Yeah.
And then you make it, and you're like, oh, it's kind of a one-trick pony. It's a cool trick, but maybe not worth.
But you know, the ideas can be anywhere between just that. Like occasionally we talk about, you know, something, and then I say like, oh, I always kind of thought that I could do this or do that, but never really developed it more than that. All the way up to things that I've built twice in 2 different variations, and I'm now at a point where I think I will never do anything with that.
Yeah.
Now I've proven that it's not good.
Yeah. At least the experiment's over, so you know.
Because I have, I'm sure you do too, I have a drawer in my workshop that has like 5 or 6 dead-end projects.
Oh yeah, I recommend, there's IKEA sells this shelf, it's about this tall, and it has thin drawers, which fit like a PC board with pots sticking up about that height. Each one has like a different project that got killed.
The Hall of Shame.
It's my like, it's like a mausoleum.
Dreams.
I call it the mausoleum, but yes. Just to have there, I don't know why I keep those, but yeah.
Well, the biggest mistake that I've made is opening up that drawer and showing some like, you know, dead end project that I decided not to do, and then, you know.
Oh, then it shows up somewhere.
Yeah. Well, not that it shows up somewhere, but just that like that person, of course, could never love anything as much as the thing that I'm showing them that I'll never do.
I'm like, no, really, I was in love with the idea too for a long time, so much that I built it and it didn't work out. It's just not.
Right. So.
So there's that. All kinds of stuff. What fraction of 90? What?
What fraction of modules you start making makes it to market?
Oh, well, it remains to be seen.
Yeah, I guess that's a question for when we shut it all down.
Yeah, there's still a lot that could come out, or.
So far, it's probably
I think the question is how many of them end up in the mausoleum.
Oh, the mausoleum?
Like, what percentage of the ideas end up in the
I'm trying to think how many shelves are there and how many products we have. Yeah, it's probably about 50-50 mausoleum.
Yeah, I think we're about 40% made it to market.
Yeah.
60%.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I've tried a lot of stuff, and it's all been crap.
Maybe I'm more stubborn than you are, but
this is start making, though, not just thought an idea.
Mine mostly get revised enough until I've figured out a way to work it into something that can make it. I mean, sure, I have, you know, things I won't mention, maybe like 5 or so in the drawer, but most of the time it's not a process of giving up. It's more like a process of completely reworking the idea.
A bunch were like not like things I wanted to do with my own music. So like a controller that was like this, but then realizing that like no one else wants to do that. Like, or it's just too idiocentric for me, and then so it dies because then my music changes. I don't need it anymore. So
it depends on, I guess, what you consider an idea. Whether you usually start from like the front panel back.
Absolutely.
If I start from an idea that's like an engineering thing, and then it doesn't work, I count that.
Well, sure.
If
you have a great like engineering trick to exploit or something, maybe there's no way that you can make the interface really fly.
Exactly. I've had a lot of those.
I mean, all the time people come at me with like, why didn't you put this feature or why didn't you put that feature in?
Yeah.
And most of the time the reason that I didn't put the feature in wasn't because I couldn't figure out a way to do the electronics, but it was because I couldn't figure out a way to gracefully put that into the interface in a way that made any sense to me.
Right. Because there's not room for another button for that, or we have too much already. So.
Well, feature creep is real.
Yeah, it is.
And of course, in our industry, maybe not quite as much as there used to be, but there is a like a peer pressure or a social pressure to cram more functionality into less space, which is not really the best for usability. The best for usability is like a really nice flow that's logical, where things are in a location and spaced out in a way that makes sense.
And you can get to them with your hands.
Yeah. And when the
you can remember how to use
big guys come along with huge hands, and they always thank me for putting some dead space around that knob.
Yeah.
Which of course there are plenty of examples of like much more functionally dense modules, but I don't think that's always like a success story. I think that can be too much.
Yeah.
Right. You can have all the features you want, but then you could never actually play it because
then what's
you
the
have
point?
to remember. Yeah, the manual's so complicated. Blah blah blah. So
It's a nice balance to have. Just try and put everything on the panel, and then have the panel be presentable, and make it easy to just understand and get into quickly.
Yeah. It's a balancing
always a
game.
goal.
Yeah, it's always this like design. Can you? Whatever. We've said it. Do you see your URX systems being linked over the internet?
So
Yes,
latency
latency
is
would be a
always
big
going to be
deal.
a problem with
Yeah.
that. I've heard of, and I don't know who the guy is who's working on it. I've seen posts about a geosynchronous clock module, so you could play together and record together, but you couldn't listen to each other.
Sure.
Well, what use is that? How do you jam with someone who you can't hear?
Well, I don't know. But you could use GPS to solve that.
You could be at the
problem.
same BPM at least.
Well, you'd be your clocks were locked, but you can't hear the
hear
thing
'em yet.
that's happening on the other end of
Well,
the clock.
you could do like a measured delay based on the geosynchronous clock.
Oh, like the Cooper time cube. It's just like a hose.
That could be
to
really
make a delay.
That could be really interesting though, because the audience could have equal latency on everybody, so it could come in at the same time.
Yeah.
But you, as performers, wouldn't.
Just have to work and measure behind.
Everyone would be responding to everybody else, but everyone's responding to everybody else, so it could be an interesting experiment.
Yeah, once you got used to it, it'd probably make it easier to do transitions. And things
You don't know what's actually happening. Someone transitions, and then one measure you transition, and then, but actually they heard because they were responding to something you did.
Yeah.
Everyone's living in the past.
This is crazy.
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
Maybe I don't know if you guys.
Yeah,
want
I
to
don't have
answer
the
this
hardware
or
for that.
not.
What?
Hey guys, what's your favorite modular artists? The only new one that's new to me that I was really blown away was I was at the Ableton Loop event in Berlin. Actually, I was exhibiting, and Paul, who works for me, came down and he said, there's this Italian girl upstairs who's talking about her setup, and she mentioned the harmonic oscillator 4 times in her description, and she's about to start. You should probably go up there. So I ran upstairs, and I saw the most incredible soundtrack, atmospheric performance where she had this. I think it was the case from a shared system, but she'd replaced about half of the modules with other stuff and was using a harmonic oscillator, but also like these ER101 sequencers and stuff. And it was really interesting, dynamic thing that she was really interacting with, and there was a camera from above showing the modular, so you could really easily see what she was doing. And I was blown away by it, and a whole room full of people, screamed, yelled, and freaked out.
Right.
So her name is Caterina Barbieri. She's Italian, but she lives in Berlin.
So I'm going to pivot on the question a little bit. We've been doing a little open mic night for modular, and it's been really inspiring just seeing people come in and play for the very first time in front of a small group of people.
Oh yeah.
So we do it every second Monday night at a local bar in Denver.
Nice.
It's great.
Nice.
So,
Yeah. That's awesome. It's great to have a little local scene. We have similar in Portland. We
working
have
on brewing it because Denver's quite a bit smaller than you guys.
I think that's important for people to kind of test their ideas out a little bit, and not
Not feel so much pressure. And then we do a little Q&A afterwards, so you can talk about what it is you're doing, flesh out your ideas.
That's cool.
It's been really fun.
I think it's a really interesting development in the music industry that we now have our own category really, because there's like it used to be that if you were a band or whatever, that you would have like this circuit. You have to like work really hard to try to make awareness about you, and you're working your way toward getting a record deal so that then you can go on the road and support the record, and you know this kind of a business that's all based on performances and records, and this is how we do the performances to promote the records, and we go out and perform the record and this kind of thing.
Push each other.
I'm so excited about right now because only in the last few years the scene around what we are a part of has completely thrown this book out the window and has a totally new paradigm, which is that a lot of people who are really interested in the instrument are performing, but they're not like performing. They're not working their way toward like release or performing some existing piece of music. They're experimenting with this machine.
It's more like an art exhibit.
And so many of the people who are in the audience are also performers. It's more like a club where everybody is like contributing their version of it, and then like checking out other people's, and everybody's like sharing ideas, and it's not so firmly in the we have the parade and then everybody along the way like cheering as it goes by, and it's like everybody's a part of it, and it's like mixed together in a different way.
I think events like you're talking about, and then we have Bolt Divers in Portland. It's a monthly thing. Like it does, like everyone that goes there, or not everybody, but a significant fraction of the people that are in the audience also were on the stage at some point in the past few months. So it's like a, very, you're talking about, it's a community.
That's pretty cool.
Modular is not a genre.
Fair, but kind of.
Do I see modular music?
Oh, I think that's a
going
response.
mainstream?
I think that's a response to that. Yeah.
I don't see modular music going mainstream because, I mean, look what is mainstream really? I mean, at this point, like mainstream music is like firmly formulaic. I don't see something that has any element of experimentation involved in it or going that way.
What would you like to see more? Oh, sorry, I just jumped into the question.
No, that's okay. I was going to say the technology is kind of it's not mainstream, but it's going mainstream. You see more and more people using the technology in their studios and doing.
Sure, well that's true. I mean,
dabbling
some
in
of
modular.
the like mainstream artists like
purely modular generated music is probably never going to be mainstream. Like we're in the end of monoculture. There's no mainstream.
Yeah, well,
everybody's into what they're into.
I agree with that. But I think it's interesting, like for us, like with what we were making. I watched this tour of Paul Epworth's church studio in England, and this is a guy who's like making #1 songs and Bond soundtrack songs, and in his mega fancy high-end studio. They pan over and he's like, and there's the modular corner, and as they go across this like section of all these modules, all of our products from all three of us are in that rack, and it really excited me to imagine that people who are making like really mainstream music are actually giving a chance to this technology and not just taking the path of least resistance. Like, what do we have to do to just get it out there and like get it on the chart? Right. Well, actually like try to do creative things.
It's inspirational and
exactly. That's what I was going to say.
But also, we're now the way the communication is and the internet. I mean, in the olden days, the way that something became like a #1 or a mainstream success was by being on the radio or being on the charts and like that kind of thing.
It's marketing
but now nobody listens to these things anymore. Nobody like listens to the radio. Really, it's not powerful like it was.
Right.
It is now. Everything is on demand. So anything has the potential of actually taking over the world, in the sense that like something that might have seemed like there aren't that many people who would like it, now it has the possibility of becoming a worldwide success.
So we can reach them.
I mean, look at Colin Benders, a Dutch guy who more or less overnight decided that he wasn't going to be a trumpet player anymore,
And a band
but he was
leader,
going
yeah.
to do modular music. And in a year, went from his videos having like 50 people watch them to having 50,000 people watch them, and to a point where anywhere that I've been in the world, if I mention his name, they say, "Oh yeah, his crazy hair with this huge modular." Like, it's that universal. It can really energize people all around the world. So in a way, that is mainstream. You know,
Right.
to a degree.
Sure, yeah, sure. I like this question to all. What would you like to see more of on the user's end using your modules?
Just more. Just keep doing what everybody does. You know, learning your own style and kind of sticking with it, experimenting, push out on that. Like, I just like seeing what people do, not that they do a specific thing.
I'd say, really learn them like they're tools. Like, get a module, really learn it well, because that's it's easy. There's so many to like be like kind of learn, and then get another one, and don't really understand all the jacks, all the features.
Right.
Because it's easy just to get lost in the mix of all this stuff. Ask for help if you don't like. Email us if you have a question about how a thing works, or first read the manual if there's a manual. That's a good approach. There's a lot of information about things out there. Watch videos, but remember, like, not every video is going to show you everything about it. So, but yeah, get involved with people sharing information. Post your own patch techniques. Post your own. Really try and, I guess I'm saying, like, really try and learn and share what you learn about modules.
I love that, and nothing makes me happier than when showing at one of these events and somebody comes up to talk to me and tells me that they have something of mine, and then they talk to me about what they do with it, which is something I never thought of, and I learned something from the users because they've taken the time to really dig into it and develop a relationship with it.
Did you know if you patched that into that?
It's the best feeling because it's like sending the kid off to college. It's like it has taken on a life of its own.
So look what I made and what's happening. What they've done and what they bring back.
And it means that it's a success as a designer, that I didn't create a thing that makes everybody make my music, but I created a platform that they can be creative upon and forge new paths of their own.
Exactly. So our friend Pedro Eustache plays with Hans Zimmer as the flautist, and he plays the Lyricon, and he's been playing at our booth a little bit, and he has a tiny modular with a couple modules in our Synchrodyne, and he plays the Synchrodyne with the Lyricon, and it's nothing I've ever seen before. It's like 8 octaves on the Lyricon, and we'll go crazy, and it's turning it into, it's a new instrument to him, and it's something I had no idea that you could ever even do with this thing, and what he's doing with it, and I love seeing things like that. It's insane.
Well,
experiment.
Totally experimental.
Somebody that I was working with in Germany, an older guy who's been around synthesizers since the 80s. He said that we all think that when people would see his studio with a lot of gear in it, they would say, "But do you need all of this, or are you using all of this?" And that we all judge someone's right to have certain pieces of gear based on what they did with it. Like, well, did he make a big record on it because he doesn't deserve to have it if he didn't? And this friend of mine said, actually, maybe that's totally wrong. Like, maybe everybody should just have what they want to have. And you know what? A lot of our customers, I'm sure all 3 of us, are hobbyists who have a job that's unrelated, and the way they make their living has nothing to do with this stuff, and they buy these things because they like them, and when they come home from a hard day's work, they go to the modular maybe with headphones on and they patch for a few hours, and they never consider recording it or making a video or anything like that. They patch for the enjoyment of patching, explore it, and when the time is up, it's time to go to bed, they turn it off and put it down and walk away. way.
therapeutic
And
to
they
them.
pull all their patches out and don't think twice
Yeah.
about it. And there's nothing wrong with that. In
Absolutely,
fact, that's
yeah.
maybe the most honest version of using it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That was an earlier question. Like, what project? That's my project. I rarely record or perform. It's just like, because I like making music. That's why. So, excellent.
Yep.
We have
Power improvements?
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
No. No. Well,
now we're fine.
I think it's probably too late, and I think that, well, it's definitely too late
Oh, for a standard change, you
for a
mean?
standard
Oh.
change or
Oh,
anything like that.
I mean, yeah, I agree with that. It'd be really, really difficult to enforce a standard change. But what I would like to see is a greater awareness of how power affects things, rather than people spending several thousand on modules and like $50 on a power supply. I
Yeah.
would like them to comprehend the fact that it's actually the most important part of the
It's-
change.
yeah,
The
it's
case,
absolutely
the
most
case, and the power supply, like that
It's your-
protects it. They both protect your modules in
It's
different
like
ways.
the tires for your car. You don't buy cheap tires.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
a really nice car, it's not going to handle well. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's important. Yeah, improvements, sure. The technology is improving, and then we're also learning more, tricks
Yeah.
and
as engineers, we've done things to isolate ourselves from the outside world of power,
yeah,
right?
yeah. We
Just
have
to make it all work better for us, regardless of what's out there. So
Yeah.
I think the onus is on the designers of the modules more than because the customers are going to sometimes choose power supplies that aren't well
Sure,
designed.
but if
Sure,
there
the
was a
cheapest
bit more
one.
awareness, I mean, in
Yeah.
the world of like pro audio, there seems to be awareness about like
Yeah.
high quality power,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
to over-spec the power supply in order to be sure that you don't have things interacting with each other or.
yeah.
There's more of a
Leakage.
barrier to entry though in like the API lunchbox.
Of course, it's
So
expensive.
more expensive. So you get
Yeah.
people who are generally more able and more already know about the stuff.
It's true.
Yeah, yeah. More education about good power practices.
Yeah.
I think it's developing that way. There's
Yeah.
new. There's
I think
newer.
things have been getting better. I don't know.
It's kind of hard to
I know this.
hear right
this-
now. We're having a little drum
this drummer's
solo.
great.
Yeah, yeah.
Does anybody know who that is who's jamming right now?
I could
I
ask
don't know.
the internet. Education sort of help. Yes, education could come from manufacturers like us. That's a great idea.
What was the
Oh,
question?
we we're on a 15-second delay here, but we mentioned education would be important for power supply, about power supplies,
Oh yeah.
would be important. So, yes, that could come from manufacturers. It probably would come from manufacturers.
Yeah.
And there's some, but I think there's not really like any campaigns about it that I'm aware of.
Yeah. There's some groups trying to make standards, but standards are really hard for 150 people to
Yeah.
adopt that are all running companies.
Well, there's a guy who used to work at Schneider's Law named Camilo Ocampo. He has a organization or a group called Red Stripe Down, which is supposed
Yes,
to be
that's
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a standard thing.
it's supposed to be like a standard creating agency for all of the kind of
Yeah.
hanging chads of modular. And
It's
the problem is that as soon as the declaration comes that the power headers should be boxed, then there's the problem that half of the ones that are tabbed that are out there are actually tabbed on the wrong side.
Yes, no, yeah,
and,
that's,
you
it's
know,
not going to work. It's hard, yeah, it's hard to retroactively figure out a standard. Maybe
Yeah.
there's some other way of like classifications or things that, like this is whatever class, just explaining what it is.
But I think it's a noble pursuit. I think it's a good thing to perhaps have better not necessarily regulation, but a little bit of encouragement to designers to follow some sensibility.
Yeah.
I mean, when Schweman decided that he would actually put a stripe on the positive end of the cable, you know, or you know, when you know, most of us think that the connector always has the minus at the bottom, and
then you find
somebody
the sideways
decides that there's going to be one the other way. I mean that,
or the sideways one with no label. You're like, which way is red stripe down?
yeah, and all the protection that we can do. You know, as much as like you know, I try to protect everything using, you know, diodes and
but
what have
also
you,
protecting
they
the
still,
other modules.
They still figure out a way to plug it in a new way I haven't imagined, where they short something together and blow up something. So yeah, I think that really the only lasting solution is education or more information. Everything else, I mean, it's a wild west out there, so you can't actually control what is being made. All you can control is that when people get something, that they have the information available so that they can figure it out, rather than just messing it up and then blaming the fact that there wasn't any information out there.
Yeah.
I think it'd be helpful for case makers to put a little worksheet to how to connect all your power modules.
Yeah.
Or dealer support is huge for that, helping people.
Yeah, don't forget, it's not just about like somebody not knowing what they're doing. I mean,
well,
I don't know about you, but I, you know, all the time hot plug things, and maybe while hot plugging it, oops, I just like you know, did that like one pin off.
But I work in a repair factory too, so we can handle it. But
well,
not that's much more inconvenient to other people than it would be to me if I zap something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think in general, just more manufacturers really saying clearly what the power supply can actually handle, testing it better, like testing in real world conditions, and more education about like, just because your power supply is 2 amps and you're running at 1.95 according to modular grid, that's not okay.
That was one of the things that
but that's
was
not clear to
discussed
people. That's not clear.
In the original Red Stripe Down meeting. One of the things that was mentioned is that there should be a new specification for how to measure inrush current and you know, peak like turn on. Yeah. In case somebody who's listening to this has no idea what that means, when you turn on a power supply, it has to charge all of the capacitors that are on the power rails, which could be thousands of microfarads. So it could require a huge rush of current, like spike at the beginning,
right?
And potentially the power supply that is just barely to spec for sustained current can't handle that.
Yeah. And so it'll start.
And switchers will go into a panic mode. Where
also, when someone has a supply and they say it's 1 amp or it's 2 amps, something like, what do they mean by that? Because does that mean that if you have an air conditioner blowing constantly on it with a nice fan and airflow, it can handle 2 amps? Or do you mean if it's in an enclosed metal box sitting in the sun, been powered on for 12 hours, can it really here? So, yeah.
So somebody really smart, like maybe you, come up with a strategy for, you know, really creating like comprehensive specs.
Sweat on the power supply. You guys both make power supplies.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I only ever made one for the complete system.
For you, for your system, yeah.
And sure, like when things go really crazy, my first instinct is to blame the power supply. So
yeah, I get those emails
really
all the time
be the guy
from your customers. Like, well, if you didn't plug your Verbos module in upside down, then your other ones would work. No.
No. Well, you know, there's more to it than that, because it's not just the power supply and the module. It's what other modules you have in there.
Yeah,
like maybe something with, you know, the usual suspects of this one, something that has you know, that draws a lot of current out of micro with like a huge amount of like clocking high frequency signals.
Analog LEDs
would
just bleed right into the power supply and pull the rails around.
Analog oscillating, analog.
A whole bunch of like, you know, transient clicking shit.
All my classic analog VCOs, like, because they're like old classic circuits and they just have no voltage regulation or nothing on them, and they're drawing every, you know, it's not even the LED, it's just like the draw from the circuit. But you always
fine
hear
on the old giant linear supplies. Mostly.
Sure. When it was all like one brand of modules, and so it was fine. But then when you have mix and match, Anyway,
You couldn't possibly, while designing, try it with absolutely every combination. So
No way.
you wouldn't know. All you can do is just try to use good design practice and hope for the best.
Yeah.
Do you think we should stop this because we can't even hear what we're
Yeah,
saying?
they probably can't hear us. Are there any other questions here?
Reverb, interfaces, RFID mind control. Cool. Completion. I'm reading. Oh. Knob sliders and buttons. What kind of primary interface? I like knobs, sliders, and buttons, though. Yeah.
Talk of a coherent modular Wikipedia. That would be great. I've thought about doing one for designers to show, like, talk about good design practices. I think that might go a long way. It's something that I don't know if everybody would work on. It's kind of it's like a bunch of trade secrets you'd have to give up.
Yeah.
To do.
But I don't think that any of the value of your modules is in your power regulation.
Sure it is.
Well,
no, of course
I mean,
it's
like
not.
what's making somebody like yours over another one is probably not related to your protection. But you know, at the risk of getting deep into the nerd zone here, we've talked a bit about like soft start circuits and about like trying to do creative protection that could somehow. My dream was always to somehow figure out a way that you could plug it in either way and it would actually power up.
Reroute it, yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, at least just not damage other modules in the system.
I mean, you could. Right. There must be a way to do like a bridge circuit that like, could essentially like work with either.
I would think so.
Oh, if you use like the opposite rows, symmetric.
Well, that's when it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
The ground.
Yeah. Oh, and the 12 and 5 are shorted together. That's good. Yeah.
And every microcontroller turns into smoke.
Yeah. That's a good trick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gestural controllers. People are always working on them. Keypads. Pressure sensitivity. I'm responding to Matthewson's question.
Are you like way up to the page?
Yeah, he's way up the page.
I totally just like
we missed a lot.
Blew right past all of it.
Yeah, we just we went on and on about something and then. Yeah, you know, I think the gestural controllers, the problem with them is you're not actually touching anything. Like, I think that's hard.
Really embarrassing to use them.
Yeah, you look weird one thing, but I mean, positions look weird anyways when you're just like hitting some strings or something. But not having the tactile feedback is kind of odd. So it's like you're drumming in the middle of the air. But so hitting something physical, but also maybe a way to.
Like a haptic feedback or something like that.
Maybe, or some way that you're like a little bit farther away from your knobs and cables so that you can like move bigger than this.
Yeah. A little shock module to kind of jolt you when you hit
there you go. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not working on a project like that, but I think there's a need for that.
They probably can't hear anything we're saying. It's just like watching me, watching us like wave our arms around and giggle.
Yeah, no, they say they can hear us down here at the bottom. Okay. Well, one guy can hear us.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
The video and audio are way out of sync.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't have any control of that.
Oh wait, fixed. I don't know what's going on.
Okay, cool.
But we're out of sync with the text. Yeah?
Yeah.
Wait, did we just finish?
My thing just crashed.
Oh, you're out.
Long knob extenders. Screwless cases. Magnets. Yeah, magnets are cool.
I'm sure you've thought about all that stuff. It's
Magnetic. Oh yeah, like latch bars, like quick release levers on on a bike type. Yeah, I haven't
no
made it.
easy way. No cheap and easy way.
Someone might figure it out. I haven't figured it out. Oh, Knurlies.
Knurlies are great.
I'm sold on Knurlies. I've been using them. We're including with our modules now. They're super useful. The Bufacco Knurlies. Yeah.
Yep.
Tighten down by hand. And then before I travel with something, I tighten out with a screwdriver, but just in the shop, I can just move things around super quickly. Yeah.
Sliding nuts?
No.
Pass.
Do not use those. Always like tap, 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 tap.
Yeah.
Done with that. Done with that. Yeah. So there. Okay. Solar power case. Yeah, there's actually a solar powered controller or it's oscillator. See a Lombard thing. It's kind of cool. You need big solar panels for a 40-watt case. So.
Yeah, that'd be hard. It'd probably have to be solar panels that charge a battery.
You carry around a backpack.
Use the battery. Actually, the original Buchla music easel was intended to be battery powered. It would have been powered with like a car battery to get the 12 volts, but an interesting engineering nerd discussion is the fact that the power supply has a transformer to convert it to 12 volts through a bridge. Huge capacitor, like the size of a can of beans.
Like a flare.
Yeah, it's some huge thing. And then that 12 volts unregulated are made out of CMOS chips and transistors and capacitors to make plus and minus 24, which is then linear regulated down to 15, minus 15.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So it would be a
lot of
power
loss in there.
inverter, not an inverter, but a power
DC-DC
like
converter.
DC-DC converter in order to power the whole thing from a 12 volt DC supply or a battery. And it mentions the battery in the literature, which presumably it was for some like full moon party in the desert,
Yeah, sure. Without a generator, that'd be too loud. Yeah.
Right.
Nice one. Magnet, man. Need more test lab.
Yeah, we've been trying to stream, just like our screwing around in the studio, fleshing out ideas and stuff. It's been really fun. We got a couple like little Logitech cameras, set them up, go live. It's hard to block out like an hour of time
Oh, yeah.
to do it though.
Yeah.
We're so busy.
Yeah.
We're all busy.
So, like, should we get ready to NAMM or should we jam? You're like, well.
Rather jam,
But we
should be a professional.
should be going to this show that we paid for and
Right.
bought our tickets for.
Yeah.
So,
But it's fun to jam.
I understand.
We're gonna try and do more videos coming up. Just need more time.
yeah.
Yep.
It happens.
Yep. Cool.
Yeah.
Kill it.
Yeah, let's call it.
Let's
call it. Okay.
All right,
Thanks for all your
thanks everybody.
questions.
It's
Thank
been
you.
fun. Yep.
Oh, Sonia texted me. We hear everything you're saying.